Welcome to Propeller Breeze, the show for student pilots, sim fans, and everyone chasing that first solo and beyond. All information in this podcast is for entertainment and general knowledge only. Always verify with certified flight instructors or regulatory authorities before attempting anything mentioned here.
The very first time you sit in the left seat of an airplane.
Oh, man.
Right? Like your hands are gripping the yoke, your feet are just tentatively resting on those rudder pedals.
Usually sweating a little bit.
Oh, completely sweating.
Right.
And your brain, it immediately wants to treat the entire machine like a car.
Right.
You just think, if I push the throttle forward, I go faster. If I pull back on the steering wheel, well, the yoke, I go up.
Yeah.
It feels entirely intuitive. You just expect it to be this linear relationship.
I mean, it's the most natural assumption in the world to make.
Right.
We spend our entire lives, navigating a two-dimensional environment on the ground. So our neurological pathways are basically hardwired for that two-dimensional control logic.
Yeah. Gas pedal equals forward speed.
Exactly. And the steering wheel dictates direction. We bring that terrestrial bias straight into the cockpit with us.
The sky, however, does not care at all about your two-dimensional logic.
Not even a little bit.
As any student pilot quickly discovers, and usually during their first, really sweaty attempt at maintaining straight and level flight, the reality of what those controls are actually doing is immensely interwoven.
It's a huge wake-up call.
It really is. So today we are taking an excerpt from the text Principles of Aviation Energy Management and using it to totally rewrite your student pilot brain.
I love this text.
It's great, right? We are going to demystify this invisible, almost magical bubble around your aircraft known as the energy envelope.
It is a phenomenal text for a developing aviator, honestly, because it strips away the immediate panic-inducing distractions of the cockpit instruments.
The things you're usually staring at.
Right. It forces you to look past the altimeter and the airspeed indicator, and you focus instead on the absolute raw physics of what is actually keeping you suspended in the atmosphere.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's jump right into what the text lays down as the golden rule of energy control.
Yes.
It basically takes a popular old-school aviation adage and refines it into this core operating principle, which is pitch plus power controls energy state.
Pitch plus power.
Yeah, the text argues that coordinated throttle and elevator inputs are fundamentally required to achieve any desired vertical flight path and airspeed.
And that concept of coordination, that's where the real learning curve begins for you as a student.
Right, because you just want to do one thing at a time.
Exactly. A beginner tends to view the throttle simply as the go-fast lever and the elevator as the go-up lever.
Like they're isolated tools.
Yes, treating them completely independently. But let's adjust that mental model for a second. Imagine you are driving a car on a perfectly flat, endless highway.
Okay.
You press the gas pedal, you speed up, you let off, you slow down. That is the beginner mindset.
Because it's flat.
Right. But flying an airplane isn't driving on a flat highway. It is driving on a roller coaster track that you were literally building in real time.
Oh, I like that. So on this roller coaster, you're basically managing a fixed budget of energy.
Precisely.
If you pull back on the yoke to climb without adding any engine power, that is the exact equivalent of your roller coaster car hitting a steep upward track without that mechanical chain pulling it to the top.
Yes. Perfect analogy.
Sure, you're going up. The nose of your Cessna is pointed beautifully at the clouds.
Yeah.
But you are bleeding off all your speed to do it.
Every bit of it.
You're trading your forward momentum just to get up that hill.
And taking that a step further, grasping this concept is just non-negotiable for a student pilot because it forces a shift from a reactive mindset.
You're just staring at the gauges.
Right, to an anticipatory one. When you understand that you are managing a strict energy budget, you literally stop chasing the needles on your dashboard.
Because you know what they're going to do before they do it.
Exactly. Every single movement you make in the air is a constant ongoing negotiation between your potential energy,
Versus your altitude.
right, and your kinetic energy, which is represented by your airspeed.
You simply cannot ask the airplane for altitude without paying for it with airspeed. Unless you are willing to open your wallet and pay with engine power.
That is the absolute crux of it. If you only pitch up, you pay the toll with your speed.
Right.
If you only pitch down, you pay with your altitude to gain that speed back. The elevator and the throttle are inextricably linked.
They're a package deal.
They really are. You cannot manipulate one without affecting the total balance of the other unless you are coordinating both simultaneously to dictate your exact path through the air.
I mean, that sounds incredibly elegant in theory.
It is.
You could put pitch plus power on a bumper sticker. Yeah. But here is the practical problem for you, the student pilot listening to this.
Uh-huh.
You are sitting there with air traffic control rattling off instructions in your ear.
Oh, yeah, rapid fire.
The summer thermals are just bouncing your wings around, and you are trying to somehow visualize this invisible energy budget. I mean, you cannot see energy out the window.
No, you can't see it out the window, which is exactly why the source text introduces a tool to make the invisible visible to the pilot's mind.
The map.
Right. It introduces the altitude airspeed map, or simply the energy map.
Just like a VFR sectional chart uses latitude and longitude to tell you where you are geographically over the Earth.
Yeah.
This map tells you where you are physically within your energy budget.
Exactly. So instead of a geographic location, this map plots your energy position. The two variables on your axes are your altitude and your airspeed.
Okay.
When you plot those two variables together, it gives you your total specific energy.
Right, and the text provides a mathematical equation for this total specific energy, abbreviating it as E sub S.
Yes, the classic equation.
The equation reads E sub S equals H plus V squared divided by 2G.
Right.
That is height plus velocity squared over 2 times the gravitational constant. And I just have to admit, when I first read that, my brain immediately pumped the brakes.
I don't blame you.
I was thinking, wait, is a student pilot on their first cross-country solo supposed to be mentally calculating the gravitational constant of the Earth while trying to, like, identify a landmark?
Well, I can assure you, no pilot is doing Newtonian physics calculations in their head on short final while fighting a crosswind.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, the equation looks super intimidating on the page, but it isn't meant to be a calculator exercise.
Right.
It serves as the mathematical proof of a mental model. It validates a concept called energy height.
Energy height. The text mentions this is measured entirely in feet, which is a really strange concept to wrap your head around at first, measuring your forward airspeed in feet.
It is weird. Let's ground it in the text-specific scenario to make it tangible.
Okay, let's do it.
Imagine you are in the left seat, cruising along comfortably. We will call you point A on our map.
All right, I'm point A.
You are flying at a leisurely 100 knots, and you are up at an altitude of 6,000 feet.
Okay, I am picturing it. Nice and slow, decent altitude, just enjoying the view.
Now imagine a buddy of yours flying a different aircraft, point B.
Okay.
They are absolutely screaming along at 240 knots, but they are much lower to the ground, down at 4,000 feet.
So I am high and slow. My buddy is low and fast.
Intuitively, we assume those two aircraft have completely different energy states because their flight profiles look so vastly different.
Yeah, totally different.
What's fascinating here is when we run both of those profiles through that physics equation, we discover something fundamental about aerodynamics.
Which is?
Both you at point A and your buddy at point B have the exact same total specific energy.
Really?
Yes. For both of you, your combined kinetic and potential energy is equivalent to a height of 6,500 feet.
So even though we are doing completely different things in the sky, I mean, I'm practically loitering and he's doing a high-speed pass.
Yeah.
We are actually sitting on the exact same energy line on our map.
Exactly. You both share an energy height of 6,500 feet. We use the term energy height because it describes what both aircraft could hypothetically achieve.
Got it.
If you, cruising at 100 knots at 6,000 feet, suddenly pulled back aggressively on the yoke and traded every last drop of your airspeed for altitude.
And zoom up.
Right, you would zoom up to a maximum peak of exactly 6,500 feet before your wings lost lift and you stalled out.
Oh, wow. And my buddy at point B, the one screaming along at 240 knots down at 4,000 feet,
Yep.
if he pulled back on the yoke and traded all that massive forward speed for a vertical climb, just hauling the nose up,
He'd do the exact same thing.
he would also zoom up to that exact same maximum altitude of 6,500 feet before stalling.
That is the magic of the constant energy line. Rapidly exchanging speed for altitude simply slides you back and forth along that predetermined line on the map.
It's a zero-sum game.
Exactly. It is a zero-sum game.
I love the concept of the zero-sum game here because it sets up a really clean way to think about this. Moving along that constant energy line is essentially like transferring money back and forth between your checking account and your savings account.
That is a phenomenal analogy for energy state management.
Your altitude is your savings account. It's stored up, ready for a rainy day. Your airspeed is your checking account. It's your liquid asset, what you are using right now to get around.
I like that.
When you pull back on the yoke to trade speed for altitude, you are just moving cash from your checking into your savings.
Making it deposit.
Right. If you push the nose down to enter a dive, you're moving savings back into checking. But your net worth, your total specific energy hasn't changed 1 single cent. You are just shifting the balances around.
You can slide along that line, transferring those funds back and forth indefinitely, simply by using the elevator, the yoke, to manipulate the exchange rate between altitude and airspeed.
And here's the catch. If I'm flying towards a mountain range, or ATC tells me to climb to an altitude of 9,000 feet, my checking and savings account analogy totally falls apart.
It does.
If my total net worth is only 6,500 feet, I can't just pitch up to 9,000 feet.
You'd run out of money.
I'd drain my checking account completely, stall the plane, and fall out of the sky.
Right.
I actually need to add raw energy to the system. I need to jump to a completely new energy line on the map.
And that shifts the entire conversation from merely trading energy to actively changing your total energy state.
Okay.
To move vertically across those energy height lines on our map, to physically increase or decrease your total net worth, your aircraft relies on a metric called specific excess power.
Specific excess power.
Right. In the text, this is abbreviated as P sub S.
So keeping with our financial analogy, if trading energy is just moving money between accounts, then specific excess power P sub S is your paycheck.
Yes.
Or, if you need to descend, a negative P sub S is a massive bill you have to pay.
That's spot on. We actually measure the size of that paycheck in feet per minute. It is a rate of change.
Oh, interesting.
Let's look at how the source text illustrates this mechanism. We have an airplane at position A, flying at 4,000 feet with an airspeed of 150 knots.
Got it. I'm there.
The text calculates that at this specific altitude and airspeed, the aircraft's total energy, its net worth, is equivalent to 5,000 feet. Now, let's say you want to get to position C, which sits at an energy height of 11,000 feet. Or maybe position D at 9,500 feet.
All of those destinations are significantly higher than my current 5,000 feet of total energy.
Exactly. So sliding along your current constant energy line won't get you there. You do not have enough total energy in the system.
My network is too low.
Right. The only physiological way for you to reach those higher energy states from position A is by generating a positive P sub S. You need to earn that paycheck.
And as the pilot, the way I generate that positive P sub S is by manipulating the throttle.
Yep.
I have to physically add raw power to the system, increasing my engine's thrust so that it exceeds the aerodynamic drag pulling backward on the airframe.
Pushing the throttle forward introduces excess power into the system, and the mechanics work identically in reverse.
Right.
If you are cruising high up at an energy height of 11,000 feet, and you need to get back down to position A at 5,000 feet to enter the traffic pattern.
I need to take a massive pay cut. I have to intentionally bleed off my total energy. I pull the throttle back, decreasing my thrust so that it falls below my drag, generating a negative P sub S.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this brings everything full circle back to the golden rule. Pitch plus power.
Wow.
The power your throttle dictates your P sub S. It determines your ability to jump up or down to new energy lines.
And the pitch.
The pitch your elevator dictates how you choose to divide that newly acquired energy between your altitude savings account and your airspeed checking account.
This makes so much practical sense. For you, the student pilot listening, P sub S isn't just some abstract physics concept to memorize for a written exam.
No, not at all.
It dictates your real-world performance every single time you fly. It determines exactly how swiftly your Cessna can climb over those trees at the end of the runway while holding a steady airspeed, or how quickly you can accelerate out of a slow flight maneuver while maintaining a perfectly level altitude.
But there is an inescapable physical reality to this system.
Right, because if adding thrust gives me a positive P sub S, a paycheck, and lets me jump to higher and higher energy lines, I eventually hit a wall.
You do.
My 172's Lycoming engine only has so much horsepower to give. I can't climb to the stratosphere just because I left the throttle full forward. Eventually, my engine runs out of paychecks.
That limitation brings us right to the boundaries of the text's energy map. You are describing the absolute edge of the aircraft's energy envelope.
Here's where it gets really interesting. So what exactly is happening at that boundary line?
The edge of the energy envelope is defined as the exact point where your available P sub S drops to zero, despite the fact that you are operating at full throttle.
So at the edge of the envelope, I'm living completely paycheck to paycheck.
Exactly.
I'm firewalling the throttle, working absolute overtime, but inflation is eating every single cent I make. That inflation being the aerodynamic drag on the airframe.
That financial analogy translates perfectly to the aerodynamics. At that boundary, you are giving the aircraft everything the engine has, but you are generating zero excess power because the drag has entirely caught up to your thrust.
Wow.
Therefore, you can no longer climb while maintaining your airspeed. Any attempt to pitch up and grab more altitude will pull directly from your airspeed checking account. You have completely maxed out your total energy state for that specific aircraft.
You are flat broke, even while working full-time.
Flat broke.
You can only trade checking for savings at that altitude. You cannot increase the total pie.
Now, if the edge of the map is where P sub S drops to 0, we have to ask what is happening inside the interior of that envelope.
Okay.
Is the available excess power just a flat plateau across all speeds? Or is there a specific region where the aircraft is operating at peak efficiency?
I'm guessing there's a sweet spot. A place where the engine is overwhelmingly happy, generating the absolute maximum amount of excess energy possible.
There is a very distinct sweet spot, and understanding it is where the genius of the energy map truly reveals itself.
Okay, lay it on me.
If you trace the inner contours of the map, the values of P sub S do not stay flat. They rise significantly as you move inward from the edges, forming a distinct peak where your available specific excess power is completely maximized.
Like the summit of a mountain on a topographic map.
Just like a topographic mountain, and this summit occurs under very specific aerodynamic conditions.
Which are?
Well, you must be at full throttle to reach the peak, but it only happens at one highly specific airspeed. The text shows that your P sub S curve drops off if you fly any slower than this exact speed, and it also drops off if you fly any faster.
Wait, hold on. A highly specific airspeed that guarantees you the absolute maximum excess power your engine can produce. We are talking about V sub Y, aren't we?
We are talking exactly about V sub Y.
Oh, wow. So all those times a flight instructor yells at a student to maintain 74 knots on climb out, they aren't just being a stickler for the pilot's operating handbook.
No, they're not.
The student is literally balancing the airplane on the peak of that energy mountain.
The text breaks down the physics behind why that speed is so critical. V sub Y isn't just an arbitrary figure a test pilot pulled out of a hat.
Right.
It is the physical aerodynamic peak of your aircraft's specific excess power contour.
Let's dig into the why of that mountain shape. Why does the excess power drop off if I fly slower or faster than V sub Y?
It comes down to the two different types of aerodynamic drag fighting your engine.
Okay.
If you fly slower than V sub Y, you have to pitch the nose up to maintain lift, right?
Okay. Your nose high.
That high angle of attack creates a massive amount of induced drag created as a byproduct of generating lift. Your engine is working overtime just to fight the drag spilling off your wingtips, which is eating into your excess power.
Okay, so flying too slow means induced drag steals my paycheck. What if I fly faster than V sub Y?
If you push the nose down and fly faster, you reduce the induced drag, but now you run into parasitic drag. This is the raw air resistance of your fuselage, your landing gear, and your antennas just slamming into the air molecules at high speed.
Like sticking your hand out the car window on the freeway.
Exactly. Parasitic drag increases exponentially with speed, and it aggressively eats into your excess power.
So V sub Y is the valley between those two massive penalties.
Yes.
It's the airspeed where the combined total of induced drag and parasitic drag is at its absolute lowest point. Because the total drag is at its minimum, your engine has the maximum amount of leftover thrust-specific excess power to put into the bank.
And because you are sitting at the absolute peak of your P sub S contour, your airplane can attain its maximum possible rate of climb while holding that speed.
That makes perfect sense.
Or, if you push the nose forward to level flight, holding that exact speed gives you the maximum possible forward acceleration without losing altitude. You are generating the largest possible energy paycheck your airframe is mathematically capable of producing.
So what does this all mean? Let's take a breath and synthesize all of this.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. What does this deep dive mean for you, the person actually manipulating the controls on your next flight lesson? It means you have to fundamentally change how you view the machine.
Absolutely.
An airplane is not just a metal tube moving blindly through three-dimensional space. It is a dynamic machine constantly navigating an invisible topographic map of energy.
And your controls are simply your interface with that environment.
Your pitch and your power are your steering wheel and your gas pedal, not for moving left, right, up, and down, but for moving across lines of potential and kinetic energy.
Well said.
By visualizing this,
Yeah.
by seeing your airspeed and altitude not as separate, scary instruments, but as a combined energy height, you stop just reacting to what the plane is doing.
You transition from being a passenger who merely happens to be holding the yoke
Right.
to being an active master of the aircraft's physical state. You know exactly where your energy boundaries lie. You understand when you are simply trading energy back and forth, and you know the physical mechanics of when you are actually changing your total energy state.
It completely takes the guesswork out of flying.
It really does.
It takes the panic out of a sudden, unexpected drop in airspeed because you understand exactly how to buy that speed back from your altitude savings account or how to generate a new paycheck with the throttle.
Before we wrap up, though, there is a critical external factor we need to introduce.
That's that.
Throughout this entire discussion, we have treated the airplane as a closed, isolated system. We have talked exclusively about managing your energy budget through your own deliberate inputs, the throttle and the elevator.
Our pitch and our power, we are in control.
But consider the reality of the atmosphere. What happens to your perfectly calculated, elegantly managed energy map when the environment itself decides to intervene?
The environment doesn't care about my math.
Not at all. What happens to your carefully managed P sub S, your meticulously balanced checking and savings accounts, when you fly into a massive thermal updraft?
Oh, wow.
Suddenly, the atmosphere violently throws thousands of feet of potential energy directly into your system. Or worse, what happens when you encounter a sudden microburst on short final that violently drains specific energy from your aircraft without you touching a single control?
That is the ultimate nightmare scenario for a pilot. The map itself physically shifts underneath you.
Exactly.
The air isn't a static highway. The roller coaster track is literally warping and moving while you're trying to drive on it.
The foundational physics remain exactly the same, but the environment suddenly holds the pen, redrawing your energy lines in real time.
That's terrifying and amazing.
How quickly you recognize those massive external energy injections and drains, and how skillfully you use your pitch and power to counter them and survive, that is the ultimate test of an aviator's energy management.
That is a profound thought to mull over during your next pre-flight walk-around. To you, the pilot in command, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the mechanics of flight. Keep visualizing that invisible map. Keep your total energy high, keep your airspeed steady, and remember, the sky doesn't care about your two-dimensional logic. Keep learning and fly safe.
That's it for this episode. Keep your wings level, your brain sharp, and catch you next time in the pattern. Thanks for riding with Propeller Breeze.